Father God, we ask you to point us in this direction, listen, direct us to make the right decisions tonight, oh God. In your son, man, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll call.
President Passanal.
Present.
Trustee Harris.
Here.
Chancellor is absent. Trustee Hill.
Present.
Trustee Tidwell.
Here.
Trustee Pridemore. Trustee B is absent. Attorney Seegers. Here. Clerk Matt and Rachel Treasurer Winsett.
Next item on the agenda is approval of agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Trustee Pridemore made a motion to approve the agenda as presented, seconded by President Passanal. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
One nay. Motion passed. Public comment on agenda items. Ms. Higgins.
Annette Shedder Higgins. Under President's item, the resolution to enforce MCL 62.7. Who wrote this resolution?
The attorney would have written this resolution.
Okay, well, you have it under yours and not his. Usually the resolution he puts under his so you can read them. I would like to ask, what authority does the council have to enforce MCL 62.7? Wouldn't that be done at the county level?
Actually, it is state law.
I know it's a state law, but wouldn't that be done at the county level? Wouldn't that be enforced and handled at the county level with the prosecutor?
Actually, we can also make a resolution to enforce a local ordinance or a local resolution.
I mean, to what end? How do you enforce them? I don't understand. Okay, so you pass it, and then what happens?
If you'd like to have a seat, we'll show you what's going to happen.
Really? Okay, well, you know what, I just want to say that I think that this is your last desperate attempt to avoid vacating the office and trying to subvert the will of the majority of the voters, and I think it's a travesty.
That's right.
We the people.
Next item is items for discussion, attorney's items, and then president's items. In your packet, council, you've been given a few things. You've been given a memorandum that actually gives the information on 62.7 as well as an Attorney General opinion regarding 62.7, a one-pager from the MML regarding default of elected appointed officials, for those in the audience, I will read 62.7. That way everyone's aware of what the state ordinance or the state law entails. Chapter 61 through 75, Villages. The General Law Village Act. It's under officers. 62.7, qualification for office, void votes, in default, defined oath. Number 1, a person shall not be elected to the office unless he or she is an elector of a village. Number 2, a person in default of the village is not eligible for any office in the village. All votes in an election for or any appointment of the person in default to the village are void. As used in the subsection, in default means delinquent in payment of property taxes or a debt owed to the village if one of the following applies. A, the taxes remain unpaid after the last day of February in the year following the year in which they are levied, unless the taxes are subject to an appeal. B, another debt owed to the village that remains unpaid 90 days after the due date, unless the debt is the subject of an administrative appeal or a contested court case. 3, not more than 30 days after receiving notice of his or her election or appointment, an officer of the village shall take and subscribe the oath of office prescribed by the Constitution of the state and file the oath with the clerk. An officer who fails to comply with the requirements of this subsection shall be considered to have declined the office. It is cited as MCL 62.7. I'm going to give council a minute to read the Attorney General opinion from Mike Cox. Council, you also have in front of you an affidavit signed by the treasurer attesting to the fact that she is the treasurer and an officer of the Village of New Haven. She has personal knowledge of all factual avertments made here within. The attached documents regarding delinquent tax and water bills on property situated in the Village of New Haven and owned by Christopher Delbert are to the best of her knowledge true, accurate, and authentic documents of the Village of New Haven. You turn the page. The first item that we have is you have a screenshot from the computer where Mr. Delbert was placed as a resident on 10/18 of 2012 with the address of 60525 Haven Ridge in Lenox, Michigan, on the account that is on, if you look at their page number, so look on page 5. The address of the account is 58784 Haven Ridge. It shows him as the owner, and on page 4 it shows him as the resident. If you turn to the next page, yes, it does say Lennox. On the next page, which is page 6, this is a copy of his up-to-date property tax on this property, but it does show that this is his property. He paid the taxes on it in 2013. If you look at page 7, at the top, it shows this bill is his at $1,120.59. This account is over 90 days and quite past due. We've attached all the billing information for you to look at with regards to the meter calculation, the meter read, as well as the balance on the account as of this time. Skip over to page 18. county listed several properties as delinquent and in forfeiture. These properties were forfeited to the county this year. If you turn to page 19, this is a screenshot of the tax program that shows Chris Dilbert's name with 58784 Haven Ridge. Now remember, this is 2013, because as of February of this year, any property tax that was owed would make him ineligible to sit in a position with the village council. If you look at this page, it then lists several other properties. There's a South Brockton vacant. There's 32260 South Brockton, 59203 East Brockton, 59217 East Brockton, 59231 East Brockton, 59245 East Brockton, 59259, 59275, and 59287. At the time of the last day of February, these properties were owned by Mr. Dilbert. If you turn the page, these are the tax bills showing that there was tax that was due at that time.
Let it go. Let
Please,
it
no
go.
comments from the audience.
No one respects you.
No comments from the audience. Page 20, page 21, all the way through to page 28 shows the balance on each of these addresses for the 2013 year. On page 29, we have another tax screenshot. This would be of 2012 taxes that are due. Again, it lists the 58784 Haven Ridge, the South Brockton vacant, the other South Brockton, and then we have the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 East Brockton addresses that also have balances on them, plus property 26063340210, which is the Lutz vacant, and then also 58521 River Oaks Drive. Now, at the time of 2012 in February, all of these were owned by Mr. Dilbert. On the next several pages, you have the dollar amounts and the actual tax bills that show that the taxes are still not paid on these properties. Now, what happened after the February timeframe is irrelevant. At the time of the actual statute that states that as of the last day of February, the tax bills were unpaid. Oh, the total dollar amount. We have $1,120.59 in water bills. We have a total tax bill of $1,666.04. I did not include any properties that I thought were questionable, or that were his son's, or that could have been considered not his during the time frame that was relevant. Now, currently, the council has a resolution in front of them as well. Did you want to make any comments?
No, other than the fact that the law is very clear.
Please.
MCL 62.7 is very clear as it relates to the inability or the ineligibility of someone to sit as an officer of the village, be in any office of the village, president or whatever office. If they owe debt, as is defined in the statute, or owe taxes. Now, the general law Village Act is a different creature from other similar statutes, and I've attached some case law, it's more of an attorney general opinion, to the packet for the board's review today, which discusses the same situation, essentially, in the context of the city, and the city charter, and the issue, and that opinion concerned the ability to let out a contract to a contractor who was in default to the city on the debt. And the Attorney General, and this was, I believe, Attorney General Cox,
Not the same thing at all.
give a very thoughtful analysis to the statute, and ultimately, essentially kind of sided with the contractor and said, look, let's not be over technical about this. But what's the critical part, I think, about that opinion is that he goes on to say, he said, unlike the General Law Village Act, this is a city charter. It didn't have the teeth that the General Law Village Act has. The General Law Village Act is very, very specific about what in default means. Unlike that city charter, unlike the township law that I'm familiar with. And it's very specific, and unfortunately, under these circumstances, despite what happened on the floor, there's no way that this village can allow that person or any other person under the same circumstances to be seated. It's just against the law. The Michigan Municipal League, which governs all townships as an association, if you will, makes the identical recommendation as what the board is doing today. I've attached that recommendation to the packet of the board.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Seeger. Does that include water bill?
Amen.
It would include any debt.
Okay.
Any debt that's over 90 days old.
Okay.
If it's a water bill, yes.
You said here last meeting
That's right.
or two, when, and I'm not picking on my friend over here, but he indicated that he owed a water bill, and he's still sitting here, and nothing was ever said.
My understanding is that if you look at the statute is very clear. It said unless that debt, and I think in that case it's a water bill with trustee Tidwell, is the subject of an appeal. And my understanding, at least from what I recall from that meeting 2 weeks ago, was that he said, I'm objecting to that bill because there's no way possible I could have used that much water. And
We had a
I believe
formal
it's an
appeal.
administrative appeal. So if you really want to be technical and apply the statute, his circumstances fit directly within the exception to the statute.
But who
So,
said, he said that. It's probably a million of people many of people in our village would say the same
He's
thing.
put it in
Well, put it
writing.
this way,
Is there a formal appeal?
as a lawyer for the village would be the same with trustee Tidwell, as it is with anybody else. If he doesn't have an appeal, then he also is subject to the statute.
But so how would you get it to an appeal? Is what I'm asking.
I don't handle appeals.
He's
I just don't.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm a board member, and I wasn't previous to it.
I think you should be privy to it.
And I think I should too.
And I didn't make the statement, I would put it until they found out what happened, I have no problem with that, but I know that the bill is.
You owe something.
You
use the water?
What happened, there was a 554 unit adjustment that was made back in 2000. If we can move on, there's a resolution in front of council. I'm going to read it. Clerk Mack, do we have a resolution number?
Yes,
What is that number?
14-0014.
Okay.
14 0014?
Yeah.
That's right.
Resolution to declare Chris Dilbert Sr.'s ineligibility to be seated as the president of the Village of New Haven.
No.
Minutes of a special, excuse me. Minutes of a special council meeting of the Village of the Council of the Village of New Haven held on November 16, 2014 in the Village of New Haven at 7 p.m. The following preamble and resolution will be offered by council and supported. The village council of the Village of New Haven, a general law village, subject to the General Law Village Act, MCLA 61.1 et sec, states as follows. Chris Dilbert Sr. received the most votes in the election for the office of President of the Village of New Haven on November 4th, and pursuant to MCL 62.4, would ordinarily be entitled to begin his term as president no earlier than November 20th, 2014. Number 2, Chris Dilbert is alleged to be in default of the Village of New Haven, i.e. he is delinquent in payment of He is delinquent in payment of property taxes or a debt to the village in accordance with the following. The taxes remain unpaid after the last day of February following the year in which they were levied, unless the taxes are subject to an appeal and/or another debt owed to the village remains unpaid 90 days after the due date, unless the debt is subject to an administrative appeal or a contested court case. The following evidence was considered by the council to determine the alleged delinquency in payment. Affidavit of Rachel Whitsett, the Village of New Haven Treasurer, with supportive documentation sufficiently demonstrating that Chris Dilbert Sr. is in default to the Village of New Haven vis-a-vis both delinquent taxes and water bill debt. Number 4, the council determined that the alleged taxes delinquency is not the subject of an appeal and that the water bill debt is not subject to an administrative appeal or a contested court case. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Village of New Haven, in accordance with MCL 62.72, that Chris Dilbert Sr. is hereby declared ineligible to be seated as the President of the Village of New Haven and is otherwise not qualified to hold office of the Village President in this general law village.
Make her a dictator.
Alleged.
That's what you say. Bang, bang, bang.
You're innocent until proven guilty in this country.
I need the audience to be quiet.
You need to be quiet yourself.
Let it go.
Okay, I make a motion that resolution 14-0014, resolution to declare Chris Dilbert Sr. ineligible to be seated as the president of the Village of New Haven, based on the evidence presented by the president and the affidavit signed by the treasurer, stating that the information provided to this council is factual, and that the law 62.7 is hereby recognized by this council as the governing law for the village.
First one, call.
That's the motion.
She doesn't have to remain president.
Don't make her president.
That's the second one, call.
By Pro Tem Hill, seconded by Trustee Tidwell.
Lord Jesus.
Get a roll call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, one, you indicated that Treasurer Winsett has reviewed these, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there's no way I would vote on that. Because I know for sure that Chris does not own some of that property that you just named. Right? Because some of that property sits next door to me, and I know for sure he does not own it. So I just, you haven't, I don't care what the figures, I tell you, he does not own that property. For sure, I know. I'm telling you. And that's, because it went to auction.
As commented on, at the time of the default, according to the MCL law.
Because I'm just saying, before you guys make a solid vote on it, I would ask that you look into and make sure that you're looking, that everything is correct. Because I'm telling you, that property, what you're saying here tonight is not true.
That's right.
The property was,
Yeah,
Just
and
stop being a
secondly-
sore loser.
the property was owned.
Really? It's time to step down.
Sore loser.
Done with it.
The village should-
You know what?
I saw a video of him protesting that water bill.
that he is, that this, I don't think that this village has that authority, and
That's right.
I may be wrong. I think it should be held up in court, and that, I mean, I'm sure that's what's not their business. But
Make him not.
and I do believe that Chris has already been sworn in, so,
Mr. Harris.
Come
when did you
Wednesday,
get your package?
you better pack your bags.
Mr. Harris, when did you get your package?
I got it. Just a minute ago.
Everybody got their package just today?
Yes.
And you've had time to read over it? So you just take one person's word?
You know what? I can't have any comments.
Okay, think
can.
about it.
Ms. Jones?
Think about
Ms.
it.
Jones.
We got enough.
Has this opinion
You
been
know what,
certified by the county clerk
John?
based on this information?
John?
No.
No.
County clerk did it already. It was all right when Jackie Kincaid did it. Like she said, alleged. Jackie Kincaid did it before.
Listen,
No. Ms.
buy
Jones?
property at a tax sale, it's all delinquent to somebody. You got a right to buy and flip property.
Can you wait till the call
You guys ain't-
before and then have these discussions?
You're not prepared for this.
Handle the truth. Because you know too much. The truth is right, then you can't handle the truth.
Because she used to be a council member and she knows the law.
Just getting started.
Yeah. We're not gonna stand still for that.
Your property. Come on, attorney. You buying into that?
Yes,
Tax sale.
Motion on the table.
You can't handle the truth.
Automatically appealable.
Roll call, please, Clerk Wright.
This isn't legal, this comes from the county, you don't get this to work.
I will clear this room if I have to.
Well, you better start clearing it.
Please, roll call.
Trustee Hill, wrap it up. Trustee Hill.
Absolutely not.
Trustee Crawford.
Trustee Pridemore.
Yeah.
Recall one.
Trustee Chitwell.
Yes.
Trustee Preston. President Preston.
Typically, I would abstain, but I cannot abstain based on council rules and procedure.
Hey, you the engineer, the whole thing.
You're right.
There's
Yeah.
no point in extending.
And take what I got to do.
Transparency, taking your personal
Motion carried.
That's not no word.
Well, I'm gonna ask it anyway. Now I'm asking, I'm telling you, I want it to be moved that everyone that follows that too. And I don't care if it's water bill, that's all.
all of them.
Clear the table.
All of them.
I'm a taxpayer, I've been here all my life, when did you get here?
Next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is property tax collection. Council, last week I revealed that quite a lot of people are not paying their property taxes. So, what I've provided to you is a payment agreement. This is a proposed payment agreement We are in the process of printing out all 1,886 properties of the village for a 10-year review. What we'll do is, we have 2014 tax that is being printed out. It has every parcel of the village. And then we will then be able to actually highlight the specific years that property tax were not paid for those specific properties, go back and determine the actual owner at that time. What we'll then do is it will be rolled up. So what will happen is, say a piece of property was owned over a 10-year period by 3 different people. Those people will be identified that actually own the property at the time that the tax bill was not due, and they will be contacted in order for them to give us proof of payment. And if they do not give us proof of payment, then we will actually go through, we're going to check on the tax receipt to make sure it wasn't received. Then we'll make sure that it wasn't received through a mortgage company. At that point in time, residents will be contacted in order for those residents to give us proof of payment. And if no payment has been made, we will make payment arrangements with residents. Again, we have $5 million in uncollected property tax from 2004 until now. And this will allow us to actually track down each and every property at $5 million.
That's not true.
Okay, it is true.
The village makes us whole, I mean, the county makes us whole every year. You don't understand the way it works.
Okay.
Yeah, you're stupid.
But this is our plan on.
Go back to our mayor.
They don't want you.
2,000 square foot on a brand new property, and that's paid $18,000. Will we be reviewing assessment values on property?
Yeah, because there's a lot of properties that are listed on there that are, we have 69 properties that are listed on there as inactive, even though people are living in there. There's no reason for those properties not to have taxes added to them. They also are the ones that have water bills that are placed onto them, but we're not collecting those water bills. So all of that is part and parcel so that we can actually start collecting the money. I can understand why there's a lot of people that are upset with this. I mean, it's hard to understand that you're going to have to account for your actions.
Yes. Starting with you.
Let's start with you.
Yeah.
There are lots of residents here that do pay their bills.
That's right, I'm one of them.
That's right.
And I am too.
Yeah.
Believe me, I understand who is and who isn't paying.
Oh, I bet.
Council. Now,
You've been in my records.
right.
Right. They
Township
just do
will
it,
also
pay $5 million.
be working with the receivers on this, so that we make sure that all our ducks in a row, so that we can actually collect the money that's owed to the village. Because if we don't, we will not make it next year
I don't like
financially.
recall. I'm gonna still hear this one myself.
Yeah, the way you're paying
So
forensic
what
attorney.
I'd like council to do is continue to look at that payment arrangement. Also go out on the internet, do any search that you can on any areas that have payment arrangements set up, as well as,
You know,
there's a
yeah,
lot
you
of
know,
information out there on payment
you know,
letters.
certainly.
Grab some, and we'll discuss it at our next workshop.
Oh, wow. More money.
The payment agreement that you had attached, this one was provided for, we can use this one for either the water or the tax.
That's correct. This can be used either for water or taxes, and what will be done is we'll attach the information to it so that when a resident One thing I'd like to do is I'd like to send one out to every resident and say, okay, you've lived in this house from this date to this date. This is the money that you've paid, whether they owe anything or not. These are your receipt numbers that we have through the computer. That way, all the residents have the ability at some point later to say, yes, the village said that I paid this, it's there, it's in writing. And this way, everybody.
And get out my business.
Yep, residents.
I think this is kind of the way Hitler acted.
Since we utilize the citizen review.
Is she German? Is she German?
Call for action, through BSNA, they'll be able to actually request.
I think somebody said that.
But I don't take action on that other than,
Hey, oh, Selena.
Next item on the agenda, clerk's items, there were none. Unfinished business. Each of you have a packet that says Company 1 at the top of it. What this is we had discussed earlier about outsourcing the water billing. At this point in time, I would have completed the water bills, but the meter reads did not get completed this week. So I have all but about 150 meters read. What we are going to do is, I'm looking for council support on this.
God bless this world.
I've done some research on 3 different companies here. We've got the first one, which is Randy Ross
Sunday
from Water Systems. Originally, his company would do the billing, payments, everything for $3.25 a unit. We have at this time a billing charge that we are charging customers, which is $2.08. My goal was to stay under that so that there was no increase to the customers. However, we were able to increase the service, as well as making sure that we stabilized our cash receivables. Because I think one of the challenges that we've had in the past is that, first of all, people aren't being billed the correct amounts, the correct things are not on the bills. There's a lot of adjustments before and after bills go out. That will all go away with having a company outside of ourselves handle it. The first company was Randy Ross. The second one was AABS. AABS originally told me that they would do it for $1.99 a unit. They increased their cost from the time I originally talked to council to now. Their cost is $2.45 a unit, which was not within the goal of the village, which is to keep the cost under what we currently pay. Randy Ross, after talking to him, did move the price from $3.25 a unit to $2 a unit. He said at this time it would enable us to set this up within 3 weeks. And this would allow us as council to actually drop out the water system problems and go forward with a billing company that would, in essence, take the last read and the current read. All the other balances would then be constantly would contact each and every resident in order to make payment arrangements. I think right now we have a lot of residents that are overly concerned that we're going to shut off their water. I am not in business of shutting off water, especially if people are paying their bills.
Except the cemetery.
Yeah, like the cemetery. So, one thing that I'd like to do is I would like to move forward with watersystems.com. But please read this email. It's 2 pages. And then we can have a couple questions.
I'd rather our new president make that decision.
Amen.
Not your job anymore, it's time to go.
Just go gracefully.
Yes, we would still be doing meter reads. Remember, when we spoke last week, LD will work with me and, council and DPW to determine the ones that need to be replaced for the radios. Currently, we have, 108 households that do not have meters at them. We have an entire neighborhood that the meters have to be changed at because we've been estimating since 2007. We also have 64 that either have broken meters or broken radios. The best way to do that is to replace the radios first, because we have approximately 200 bad radios.
How many houses have been estimated?
We've had a lot of estimations since 2008.
The reason why it's been estimated since 2007.
That is something that has to be answered in time. That'll come back in the contract. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a vote to move forward with starting the contracting process with Randall.
We don't want you to do it.
Let's make a motion that we,
Table.
look at, Randy as a possible contractor for our water system. And we handling all the payments that are received into a bank bank deposits, them into our account, the bank sends electronic file detailing who and how much is paid. We report those things off
Oh,
the
you want
system.
to collect
And
money
update all
too?
customer records, and all our motion to each month. Continue a report of all the measures of the check. So I make the motion that we accept Randy Ross as the contractor after we review the contract at the next meeting to make it official.
Do you hear we don't want this?
Motion made by trustee Hill, move forward with contacting Randy Ross to put together an initial contract for council's review, seconded by trustee Tidwell. Please do a roll call for example.
Question on the motion.
Yes.
Is this the one that Larry was from?
No, this is not. Nope, not even a related company.
Trustee Hill.
Yes.
How about the ordinance?
Trustee Pridmore.
Yes.
How about RT?
Trustee Harris.
No.
Trustee Tidwell.
Yeah.
Trustee Chestnut.
Yes.
Now, why did they have to hold a special meeting?
They gotta get paid.
Get paid.
Guess somebody there, you said we start with a whole ass. I'm talking to you.
Excuse me, please address the chair.
Be upset but not rude.
Just tell me I'm talking to you. That ain't rude.
You being rude.
Let's not talk about rude, let's talk about ignorance.
Calls from the floor.
Can't seem to recognize. For those who don't know me,
Yes.
I am Chris Gober Sr., probably the largest single taxpayer in this village.
Yes.
Sit.
You know, I thank you for the information you provided tonight, because, and I assume you're gonna, or you have presented this to the county prosecutor's office, because only a court can keep you from taking that seat. That is part of public record that has been certified by our treasurer. I look forward to standing in front of the judge.
All right.
Hello, my name is Drew Francis P. I reside at 5881 Pine Street. And I never thought I'd see the day when my vote didn't count. But that's not why I'm standing here. I just want to know one thing. I know you all are getting paid today. When I worked for Ford Motor Company, when I worked on Sunday, I got double time. I just want to know if you all are getting double pay, especially council, or is it just like straight pay? That's my question.
Well, $200.
I said for council.
Hello?
I charge a flat rate for the whole month.
And mileage. And mileage.
All right, thank you.
Calls from the table. Calls from the table.
Calls from the floor.
Excuse me. Calls from the table.
We're not done with call from the floor.
No.
My hand been up for,
Yeah, it's been up.
before Mr. Dilbert. You gonna hear me? I'm sure Mr. Dilbert will, President Dilbert will prevail over this situation. It doesn't matter to me. Recall petition is still going out because I heard somebody say something about rude up here. It was rude of you to have us all here on a Sunday.
Amen.
That was rude. I've said this before, and I know you read it. I give everybody a fair shake.
Me too.
Fair shake. You've been in here 4 or 5 months, that was fair enough. Deborah Hill, got you. This is wrong.
It's wrong all day long.
Trustee Hill, I call you president when I see you, you address me the same.
Trustee needs to pray on his knees.
Before we go on. I don't know you, sir.
Mr. Sims.
I get 3 minutes, I'm at 1. You sit up here trying to keep a president out of office on a resolution you just made for with past due bills.
Sore loser.
You know, you got a man sitting up here on this council, past due, delinquent, default, and I don't care, I'm not paying.
That's what he said.
As far as I'm concerned, anything he has voted on since he's been at this table.
Right. Boy.
If you put that resolution on the table tonight, we're gonna seek that also. It's bad enough if you a month delinquent, two periods delinquent, but come on, you get over $1,000, how much period of time that covers?
And still using water.
That's somebody that just ain't paying nothing that's not gonna pay. And you trying to keep our president out of office? God bless you.
Hold on, just ask the question. Mrs. Higgins asked the question. It's a question of procedure. I'm just questioning. Hold on a second. I sat here through this whole meeting. I sat here for 5 hours the other night, remember, a month ago, and you didn't let people. I'm asking a question.
She told you
Let him speak.
Let him speak, officer. That's wrong. You're wrong. You can't handle it. You can't handle it.
We ain't ready for the truth.
It's been voted out of office. Who's taking takes over then? Because the people voted you out. I'm just wondering who's gonna take over.
Right, that's right.
I want to.
All right.
You don't tell nobody to sit down.
Can't hear. All right, Jim.
Go ahead. Speak.
Take the microphone.
Where do you think the village stands as far as the village president as of the 20th?
Right.
According to MCL 62.4, MCL 62.4 reads the term of office provision of the General Law Village Act, and it says, unless otherwise provided by ordinance, the president, clerk, and treasurer hold their respective offices for the term of 2 years and until their successors are elected and qualified. The term of office for a president, clerk, or treasurer elected at the village's regular election begins on November 20th, after the officer's election and qualification.
That's not true.
By virtue of the resolution that was passed tonight, he was deemed to be not qualified for the office, and therefore there's nobody to succeed President Passano. Therefore, until such time as there is somebody who is both elected and qualified, it's a two-part equation, she will remain the president.
Oh, no. It ain't gonna happen.
No, she's not an elected official. No. This is not Hitler. But Tidwell's vote is void. She lost the election. She's out.
There's nothing to stop the council. This is what the MML tells us, Michigan Municipal League. The council has the right to govern itself. That's what it is. We are not having somebody elected to our office in violation of our own.
So this is Russia now?
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying, because
Put your hand on, just start talking.
she wasn't elected to that position.
That's right.
That's right.
She's serving as president.
Please,
Term is over.
her term expires on the 20th.
If somebody is elected and is qualified to take her place.
No.
Oh, bullshit.
But he's not qualified by virtue of the resolution that was passed tonight. Therefore, he cannot succeed her, and therefore, there's nobody to succeed her, and she remains the president.
That's not the way it works in the United States.
We
If
can
that
argue all day
resolution
about
was
this.
in place prior to tonight or prior to the election, that may have to stand, but don't you think it's a little mature that it's after the election?
Right.
No, in fact, it could have been on the 20th or the 21st.
The village does not govern the elections anymore.
Yeah, she did it before.
For now.
The village doesn't govern the elections anymore.
Okay.
It's the township.
I just want to remind residents, friends, and everyone else that's here, this is not the first time this has occurred in this village.
Well, we gotta listen to you.
This is the second time that someone who was elected to a position in this village was removed. And some of you that's on this other side of this argument was involved in the removal of those elected officials. This is state statute, this is law, this was done while Robert Davis was the
So they
attorney.
must have needed to go.
This was done twice before, and it just shocks me that one of the person that happened to stood here and made the because they're old property taxes. Because that person's old property taxes.
By the prosecutor.
But yet,
By the prosecutor.
by the tape, I have the tape.
By the
I have the
prosecutor.
right.
You put me in your conversation.
I didn't know.
By the prosecutor. Sure. Okay? And Brett Harris did not remain the president. The past president did not remain the president.
Tell him, Sam. That he does not hold those taxes. Then he would take the seat.
Zero.
He would take, if it turns out. So you're guilty of corruption.
Motion to adjourn, made by trustee Ball, seconded by trustee Harris. Motion adjourned.
Mr. Seeger, I sure hope you take my information.
Go ahead.
What happened, man? They done lost their mind or what?
They done lost their fucking.
And the
excuse me.
20th,
They done lost their
we up
mind.
here when Chris come in and make sure he in the,
Yeah, we will escort him in.
you know, yeah, he's sworn in. This is, ain't got nothing coming. Sad. Oh yeah, that was.
But she said that she'll give him his seat after they check it out.
For your water bill. Not talking to her, man. You got missed $3,000 water bill. Yeah, pretty much. All the bodyguards there.
And not only that, she's gonna contact you and make you provide information to you. She got to and you got to come up here and I don't know.
She better not be in that seat. I bet you that. We're going to get the village in the lawsuit.